We know it's going to take many forms of energy to meet the world's needs while creating a cleaner future for all. At Chevron, we're lowering the carbon emissions intensity of our operations, investing in lower carbon technologies, and exploring renewable fuels of the future. We work hard to care for the homes we love, but it's only human to protect the one we share.
В самом сердце столицы Казахстана компания «Алдар» создала современный многофункциональный комплекс, крупнейший в стране. Абу-Даби Плаза – место притяжения людей и бизнеса, эпицентр столицы и украшение панорамы города. Абу-Даби Плаза стал ярким продолжением серии успешных проектов компании «Алдар». Абу-Даби Плаза – это многофункциональный комплекс с единой инфраструктурой для работы, отдыха и комфортной жизни. Торговый центр связывает воедино все здания комплекса. Живая атмосфера, центральное расположение, уникальные дизайнерские решения, форматы и всемирно известные бренды делают его привлекательным как для шопинга, так и для бизнеса. Жилой комплекс дарит возможность насладиться жизнью в столице, живя и работая с комфортом в самом сердце Нур-Султана. Отель «Шаратон» предоставляет жителям и гостям столицы первоклассное обслуживание, а также все необходимое для проведения деловых встреч и мероприятий на самом высоком уровне. Знаковая локация офисных площадей Абу-Даби Плаза, престиж и масштабность проекта делают комплекс идеальным местом для открытия представительства международных корпораций и активно развивающегося казахстанского бизнеса. Свободная планировка офисных пространств, подземный паркинг на 4000 автомобилей и продуманная инфраструктура. Здесь все предусмотрено для успеха вашего бизнеса. Почувствуйте пульс и ритм города вместе с Абу-Даби Плаза.
Hello, I'm Andrew Gamble. I'm the chairman of the global board of Grata International, which is the Swiss Verein which exercises overall control and direction for the Grata International network. There are a number of aspects of the work that I do for Grata. One is I speak to international law firms who are significant clients of the firm. I certainly enjoy doing that and explaining to them about the value of Grata. I discuss the strategic direction of the firm with the senior partners, and I also work proactively with the Integration Centre and the International Cooperation Department, who are performing an excellent function on behalf of the firm. And last but not least, I speak to potential new firms. That's a very interesting question. I think it's really to do with our focus. We're very much focused on a particular regional area. And international law firms have retreated from that space, whereas we are within this very large geographical area extending from Eastern Europe through to China. And we provide, as a result, very significant services in those markets. Well, we've clearly been through some very difficult times since Grata was set up nearly 30 years ago. Most recently, of course, we've had the pandemic and there are other difficulties in the region. I think that the success, or the indication of the success of Grata, is that not only are we surviving in this market, but we're getting stronger and expanding. The Verein structure, which is a particular legal construct established under Swiss law, enables us to provide international coordination and direction, but at the same time it leaves all the local officers to pursue their own business activities in a manner which is most amenable to success within each of their own local markets.
Это что такое? Да не игра. Вот это. Возможно, вы думаете, что виза — это просто банковские карты. А что, если я скажу, что название, которое вы видите повсюду, это больше, чем просто надпись? Виза — это сеть. Она помогает людям переводить деньги отсюда вот сюда. И помогает этому парню работать онлайн, чтобы он мог продать джинсы, находясь да хоть бы на этой горе. Это волшебство, которое остается за кадром, но может объединить всех со всеми. Эта сеть позволяет взглянуть на мир свежим взглядом за утренней чашкой кофе и меняет точку зрения на то, что делает бизнес бизнесом. Виза — это сеть, которая может объединить всех. Там, где вам нужно быть. Там, куда вы мечтаете попасть. Там, где вы заслуживаете быть. Эта сеть — ключ к исполнению мечты. Ведь виза каждый день открывает двери по всему миру, чтобы коммерция объединяла нас всех. Виза — сеть, которая работает для каждого.
Растут акции или падают? Быки и медведи всегда в деле. Выбери свой клуб. Freedom Finance. Инвестиции с характером.
Мы начинали с фондового рынка и стали инвестиционной компанией мирового уровня. Но мы хотели большего. Сегодня мы лидируем в онлайн-автостраховании и задали новые стандарты страхования жизни. Мы первыми в СНГ запустили цифровую ипотеку и внедрили самый быстрый способ купить смартфон в рассрочку. Мы предлагаем онлайн-платежи для бизнеса. Настало время обновиться. Мы такие же надежные, но более гибкие, динамичные и инновационные. Один бренд, 1000 возможностей. Добро пожаловать в единую экосистему Freedom.
excellence pursuer, a partner forever. China Construction Bank, CCB, was established in 1954, evolving from a policy bank, a specialized bank, a state-owned commercial bank, to a large-scale state-owned joint stock commercial bank. CCB has been continuously expanding its business scope and exploring new financial service offerings. With 65 years development, CCB has consistently been ranked among the world's top banks with its sound operating indicators. And its total assets have remained the second on a global scale for many consecutive years. In the year of 2014, when CCB celebrated its 60th anniversary, President Xi Jinping instructed the bank to improve the capabilities to serve national development, mitigate financial risks, and improve competitiveness in the international arena. CCB remains true to its original aspiration and keeps its mission firmly in mind, focusing on enhancing three capabilities, and puts forward the new finance concept centered on fulfilling the people's yearning for a good living. With the continuous deepening of new finance concept exploration, CCB serves national development more precisely and firmly, mitigates financial risks more actively and effectively, and engage in international cooperation more openly and confidently. At present, CCB's global network covers 30 countries and regions, including major international financial centers and prominent economies along the Belt and Road. The offshore RMB business grows rapidly. CCB London branches' accumulative RMB clearing volume reached nearly 40 trillion RMB, making London the largest offshore RMB business hub outside Asia. Cross-time zone, cross-region, multi-currency, and 24-hour non-stop financial services are provided globally. In its efforts to follow the opening up policy and better serve the real economy, CCB proactively offers services to Going Global and the Belt and Road clients and projects, strengthens collaboration with other financial institutions, participates in major international events, and cultivates and attracts globally competitive talents, so as to boost the bank's internationalization process. With rapid development of the Chinese economy and the Belt and Road Initiative, CCB will never stop its pursuit for better services and its commitment to making tremendous contributions.
Қайырлы күн, құрметті форум қатысушылар. Бүгінгі 5-ші
Hello, dear guests. We're glad to meet you here. My name is Rahim Shambayev, and I am going to be the moderator of our today's press briefing. We have the governor of AIFC, Mr. Kelimbetov, here, and his colleagues. Let me introduce you Mr. Kelimbetov, who is the governor of the AIFC, Yernur Yesmagambetov, who is the chairman of the management board of Authority of AIFC. Then we have the General Director of Astana Financial Service Authority and AIX CEO. So our press briefing will take about 50 minutes. In the very beginning, we will listen to Mr. Kairat Kelimbetov with his presentation, and then we will answer the questions from the audience. So, Mr. Kairat Kelimbetov, the floor is yours. Thank you so much. Let me introduce the team of International Financial Center, Rinat Bikturov, who is the head of AIX, Astana International Exchange. Yernur Resmagambetov is the chairman of the management board of the AIFC administration. Today we wanted to show you our team because the AIFC, it's not just one organization, it's a whole ecosystem. We have the court arbitration center, and we will later talk about it. We also have some separate regulator and some organizations like invest funds, some organizations that are responsible for business development. So this is a big ecosystem which is aimed at making the AIFC as one of the regional leaders. These days we have Astana Finance Day conference, and I will be happy to answer the questions regarding discussions that are going on here right now. And you all know that it was the annual report of the AIFC to the Council. So the International Financial Center, its corporate management system is based at the specific structure, and there is a specific body that is dealing with all the activities, and we have the Council of the AIFC, and according to constitutional law, the president is the chairman of this, and we have the members from Kazakhstani part. It's Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Minister of Economy, and Foreign Affairs, and the chairman of the Agency on Financial Development and Regulation. And we also have here the first deputy of the president's administration, so we have quite representative council. And from the external part, we also have the representative of some structures who are the main investment banks. And a little bit later, I also can tell you in more details. So as a result of this discussion and our report, the annual report was approved. There were some recommendations given from the president, and I think that you all saw this recommendation. You can get acquainted with them on the site of Akorda. There are some specificities about the directions which we shall focus. In the year 2020, the strategy was approved till 2025, and we agreed that time on our main targets. So we had two main goals at that time. So using the jurisdiction of AIFC, we wanted to attract $10 billion investments, and our aim was to have 2,000 companies registered. Nowadays, it's the middle of the year 2022. We already have investments through our jurisdiction, about $6.6 billion. Investments to Kazakhstan through portfolio investments, through direct investments on one side, and on the other side we have already more than 1,400 company registers. We have small company, big companies, but 1,400 companies have already been registered with us. So we see that we are following our key performance indicators. Right now we have reached 60% of them. It's a good news, because when we did the report for to the year 2020, you will remember that time the COVID situation did not allow us to conduct many offline meetings. However, digitalization of our financial center, when all this system has just worked, residence, justice systems, e-residency justice, we were able to register our companies. Usually, companies could be registered within 1 working day, but nowadays our indicators is about 3 hours. Well, if the company applies for some financial license, it will take longer, but still we have good results in our registration system, and we are happy to this. We also have e-justice system, as the other judicial system in Kazakhstan. We had this online system quite well in the year 2020-2021. Our jurisdiction mainly covers the disputes in commercial and contract law, and we have had about more 1,000 cases in arbitration center, in the court of AIFC, and we also have some mediation cases. I also wanted to say that we have reached good results and success in the regulation on the financial stability. We have agreements with the National Bank. We have signed the Currency Acts, and with the Agency on Financial Regulation, we have the exchange of information, exchange of data between our information systems, and it's a great achievement if we speak about the promotion and implementation of tasks that were set by the strategy. We are happy and we think that this first stage of the establishing information of ecosystem of AIFC is coming to the end, and as one of the tasks was said, you remember AIFC, it's not just one specific idea, it's just the part of the reformation package, and right now when we have that new reformation packages are being formed, especially in social and economic sphere, we think that this our established ecosystem will be a good part of this new economic policy and a good part of this new Kazakhstan. So the standards of corporate governance that we managed to reach in our center, and the standards in court proceedings, in AIX, in in AFSA, we think that these corporate principles in governance can be used, shall be used, and we can apply this practice to the whole Kazakhstan. We are here in a close cooperation with state bodies, and there is a great news. During Astana Finance Days, we have signed the roadmap with the National Chamber Atomican. So the knowledge of the AIFC could be useful for the entrepreneurs from different regions of Kazakhstan. We will have a joint work in a specific activity. We have the separate technological activities, financial activities, regulatory activities, crowdfunding activities. We have many directions. Atomican has been engaged in this activity, and with this I would like to stop, and I think it's better if I answer the questions that might arise. Thank you so much, Mr. Kairat, Yernur, and Irnat, if you want to say something or to complement, please. Yeah, in the president's youth pool, Yernur and Irnat, they are candidates on the first and on the second place, and we are proud that in the AFC we have 10 people, and these 10 people, they are on the list in the .youth pool. Yeah, Kazakhstan is very prominent due to its youth activities. And so, Mr. Kairat, the year 2022 is a new context, it's a new situation in Ukraine and the sanctions, and we know that Russia and our country is in the Eurasian Economic Union, and maybe the sanctions could be intensified. Speaking about this, do you think there are any risks for AIFC and for the residents of AIFC? Will the work be changed? Are there any forecasts about these situations? Thank you so much. Yes, there are some trends that we see in the first half of this year. We see there are there are dramatic changes if we compare this half year with the previous periods. Well, speaking about all these trends, I mean the geopolitical tension and some deglobalization processes, over the last 30 years, all of us have received its advantages. When we were trying to be introduced in the world arena of investors, arena of educational activities, and now this risk of geopolitical tension has been implemented. And yes, speaking about sanctions towards Russia, we see also the tension between the Russian Federation and the Western countries, if we can say this. But we also see the other trend that started when we were speaking about trade wars between other powers like China and US and so on. So I think this, let's say, confrontation or tension will be the part of the new norm, and we have to live in this area. And in regard to this, the course, the activities that is led by Kazakhstan, the status quo, the status of the neutral country, is the most justified approach. You remember last years we were speaking about multi-vector foreign policy, and I think these are the results that we can see now. You all know why we are leading this policy, because a large number of investments to our oil and gas industry and to mining industry, and here we speak about more than $300 million, and these investments came to us from US, from EU, from Great Britain. So the main investments were made to our deposits, to our industries, and that's why we see the jobs, the financial flows, and so on. On the other side, we export these products mainly to Europe and to China. So 50% of our trade is to Europe, 20% to China, and 20% to Russia. That is why Kazakhstan is trying to escape the situation when Kazakhstan has to make the choice. Our choice has been done long ago. We want to be the part of international community, and we continue to have the good relationship with our strategic partners that I have already been mentioned. So right now, this is our new reality. We understand the situation, and it was already mentioned by the leadership of our country. On one side, we understand that our financial and bank structures, they know what sanctions are, and they know about the requirements, and that there is a big work that is being done by our bank and by the leadership of the country. And it's not something new. Actually, this is a challenge from the year 2014 when there were the events in the Crimea area. I think the banking system adapted quite well to the sanctions that have been declared. Well, of course, we need to see the coordination with all relevant structures, with the organization, which is a part of the Department of Finances of US. And I think that our bodies are leading the relevant work. That means that companies and persons that are on the sanctions list, they could not continue their entrepreneurial activities in Kazakhstan and within the AFC. For the AFC, we see there are some specific risks, and we have been analyzing this risk, and we know how to work. For example, if you are registering your company in the AFC, and if you are registering it just in the usual jurisdiction, Kazakhstan, so we know that there are thousands of companies, LLPs, and so on. In our jurisdiction, we have 1,400 companies. They are all listed on our website. You understand what these companies are, where they are from. So there are some specific rules that exist. And when I was speaking about registration, we have a specific system that allow us to recognize the final beneficiary, ultimate beneficiary owner. So we see who is the owner of the company, not the intermediary, but even the ultimate owner of the company. We check this through the database. We have the Refinitiv work check and some other databases that allows us to identify if this person a participant of these sanctions or nowadays we see that all over the world there are some specific checks for the sanctions, not only of some companies but also of some big economies. Why banks or different financial structures try to follow? Why we try to follow? Because if we follow or comply with all these rules, then there is no opportunity to work with dollar, and there is no opportunity to work with some other corresponding banks. The government of Kazakhstan, National Bank of Kazakhstan, and the AFC, we all understand this situation, and we know how to mitigate this risk. And this is a part of those regulatory requirements that are imposed to us by this time. On the other side, if we consider the words of our president at different forum, our president is always saying that we are trying to have the neutral position and to have the relation. And when we speak about future economic strategies, this is kind of opportunity for Kazakhstan to become transit or logistic or energy hub for our region, because we are in good relationship with all our neighbors and we are continue to have strategic relations with the global players. And I think this is a big value that we could share. So companies and corporations are trying to adapt to new realities, and we see the changes in the Russian business and Russian companies, and we see that there is some kind of competition of jurisdiction where the company would be relocating. So what do you think? Do you see the change in the demand for the registration in the AFC? And maybe you have some specific analysis and forecasting. Well, we all see the migration of the Russian companies. Mainly, these are companies from technological or IT sector. And it was interesting to see this relocation process. And I think that many countries, including our country, shall make specific conclusions. You know that many IT companies are quite successful in conducting relocation to the Emirates, to Turkey, Armenia, Georgia, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and part of these companies, of course, moved to Kazakhstan. Here, the first point of attraction is, of course, Astana Hub. Astana Hub is a special organization in the Ministry of Digitalization that deals with the support of IT sector in Kazakhstan. And we have the agreement with Astana Hub that those IT companies which are planning to invest, serious investors, well, you know that technological IT companies, as a rule, they are trying to find venture investors or business angels when they are being developing. So we can do the registration in the International Financial Center so that these companies will not only receive some specific benefits from the government, we have some specific tax benefits, but so that they would be able to structure their elements for the venture investments. So companies that are in the AFC have the opportunity to be the part of Astana Hub and to be the part of our jurisdiction and vice versa. But more companies will go to Astana Hub if they're just internal IT companies and they mainly seek for tax benefits. But those companies that are more advanced, who want also to receive some additional investments, they come to register to the AFC. We saw the big wave in Almaty, in Nur-Sultan, in large cities. We see these digital nomad companies or young people, young companies, startups, they relocated, and those of the companies that passed specific expertise for the sanctions risks. So, and for these cases, for some companies, this rule of 3 hours of registration did not apply because there are some specific features. But so that companies wouldn't expect a lot, I want to say that we had till December we had 82 Russian companies, and after February we have only 15 new companies. They are young startups, and we are happy to receive this human capital. We have this new ecosystem. Here in Expo area we have Astana Hub, IT University, AIFC, Tech Hub, and Nazarbayev University is nearby.
Глобальной силой в IT-секторе.
An opportunity to become this global power. In general, how to treat it. We remember the period of the World War II when the Soviet government moved lots of facilities and institutes, cinemas, universities and institutions here, and many professors were here, and I think it really helped to set up new institutions in Kazakhstan. And in any country, we should follow an opportunity to invite for temporary work or maybe for some permanent projects and contacts to the best experts from all over the world. And naturally, we've got this environment. And at the level of the government, we follow these rules, and AIFC follow this. So can you name some important names? So after these turns after 24th of February, for example, yesterday there was a large meetup, and it was a significant name. This meetup, and if they show up with their operations, it will tell to other operators how cooperation assess the risks and perspectives in Kazakhstan. Thank you, Kim, for this question. It's a little bit different story. If you allow, there will be a little context of the story. You know that during this boom of crypto industry, when lots of organizations were registered that in general were working and were really active in crypto industry, and the government had received an offer that we were supposed to recreate the whole chain. This crypto ecosystem, as you know, it ends by the institution of this crypto exchange. So in our part of the world, it was probably like number one, and it was this proposal. The Ministry of Digitalization is the active supporter of this crypto industry, high-tech industry, but on the other side there were some difficulties for ENG sphere when this boom led to that some balances were violated and were ruined a little bit and damaged, and so the segment of this crypto exchange it is about to find its place in the system of financial industry. And there was the task given by the government of the country to work on some risks. As you understand, crypto exchange, there's a different opinions and attitudes. Somewhere it can be regulated, somewhere it can be forbidden. In the Western world, it can be considered as the regulated activity, and there are some specific regulators for that. And as we have agreed with the government and with the National Bank recently, we have announced the pilot project in Kazakhstan in 2022. We had a pilot project which allows to create crypto exchange, and who is responsible for the regulating of those is the regulator of the AIFC, and it is a very large regulation. We need to include the system Know Your Client, anti-money laundering, and of course lots of regulators worried about this, and because of that I wanted to say that AIFC is the best place for that. We have the regulator. We have signed the agreement, IOSC agreement, with a great number of these participants that any activity of these or that financial institute, if the regulators require the information, we share this information. And if we require, then they share this information when it is needed. And we follow and respect these rules of the World Organization, anti-money laundering, we respect it. So this fragile, when crypto must be converted into this fiat money, and we are grateful and that the system of regulators takes this risk. The National Bank and the Agency on Financial Regulations, as a rule, converting this crypto to fiat must come to this process, and it is right in the middle of obtaining the license, and we will require that from one point of view we need to follow all the rules regarding anti-money laundering, know your client policy, and on the other side these processes should be done by means of commercial banks. But nevertheless, we would like to mention that in this situation, the context of the regulatory world, community, and society, we understand it is financial activity and must be regulated. And of course, it would be better to regulate those who work it transparently instead of making people to go to this dark business side. And together with the pilot project, with the National Bank and with the Agency of Financial Regulation, we will be working on this. Regarding the AIFC, we understand that these processes are really expensive, of course, and we need to have the unique combination of the political will and understanding. But on the other side, long-term investment. From your point of view, how sustainable the project is? I would like to say that during the last meeting, the board of AIFC, we have the controller, the grade 4, Deloitte representative of Deloitte, and the financing of the International Financial Center was invested, and the number of that was of finances and investment was decreased, and these figures and numbers were changed. But the participants of International Financial Center paid more taxes than the Republican budget paid for those quasi-governmental representatives. So more than 13.5 billion tenge was paid. And we have calculated that the forecast said that all those means which were spent on an AIFC, all that was compensated by the tax. So then it will be just positive income and benefit, and will improve the incomes and benefits of the Republican budget. And the second part of the story, that we have brought $6 billion of investments, and we have created lots of working places in financial and non-financial sphere. And we have registered more than 400 companies. And the economical financial budget sustainability happened, and that the budget that goes on working with administration regulatory basis, this is from one side. But from another side, we think that that initiative that was announced during previous years on creating the regional financial hub and investment hub, in the context of the geopolitical uncertainty that has in other way of perceiving AIFC is the way of achieve and obtain this connectivity. So before we were talking about this logistics, railway, airway, and highways, and etc. But also we should work more and more about digital way, and we have great contacts and connectivity with financial markets of China and the Eurasian space, etc. So I think it will have the great importance for the future economical model and meaning of for Kazakhstan. So Q&A section now. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. Introduce yourself and ask a question. Not more than 2 questions, please, from one person. Hello, Alina Berzhanova, Mir TV channel. So, in case of repatriation of capital, is it possible to take the money out from offshore, and how this procedure will be happening, and how will it look like in practice, and if it is possible in general repatriation of the capital from abroad or returning from foreign offshore jurisdiction to the jurisdiction of International Financial Center. It's one of the activities, and the head of the government had set up the task. The national companies that in Kazana and where Bytrek is to return many companies to the jurisdiction of the International Financial Center. Maybe I will tell you a little bit of the story, why many companies were creating their daughters in offshore jurisdictions. It were these joint companies with our investments, and since a IFC didn't exist, this enterprises exist in Luxembourg and the Netherlands, and some funds were registered themselves in Cayman Islands, not just to avoid the taxes, but that organizational legal form or structure that they needed, trust or funds or some investment funds. It did not exist, and it still does not exist in casual jurisdiction of Kazakhstan. So that is why Kazakhstan, among other post-Soviet countries, we have this advantage additional jurisdiction of common right, which is based on the principles of the law of Great Britain. You can register this investment fund or private company or some other structures in jurisdiction of Kazakhstan, and we have explained it really well. We have the schedule of returning of such companies. A good example was that captive insurance company which is connected with the Chairman Kazmunagas. It was a return from Cayman Island to the jurisdiction of AFC. If we consider this question wider about repatriation of the equity for many post-Soviet citizens, it is quite difficult to be in foreign jurisdictions, and I think that one of those opportunities that these citizens are sure or confident and they want to work with other jurisdictions, I think that the Astana International Financial Center has it. And clarifying question, please, if you allow. So, do we have something like effects or maybe expected results and consequences in order to understand in numbers and figures? Maybe the deal that we have now that is going through this process. Some of the examples, an insurance company that came from Kazmunagas, from Cayman Island to AIFC. But what you're talking about, we cannot provide any examples of these processes so far, but the volumes that we expect, maybe too early to talk about it, but let's wait. So, dear friends, more questions if you have any? I have the question. During 3 days. So we have these meetings here in AIFC, the questions of finances, economy, and we had interesting forums, and among 13 countries we have different experts. For example, these experts, what were their ideas, offers, proposals, any agreements were concluded probably according to this, the results of this 3 days, what will be interesting for Kazakhstan. So I would like to say that in 2 years, 2 years ago, actually, we had this COVID situation, and investors couldn't come to us. And because of that, we had this kind of difficulties in our decision to have this Astana Finance Days. It was an efficient decision, and some investments from China and from Qatar and Emirates, and I think it will have very good effect. And we were discussing these questions regarding the time of realization. We will be working on this, and cooperation, Chevron cooperation during these days. They have come up to several initiatives and creating the investment fund. The main investments for 50 million oil sectors will be attracted. We think it is good result. Some Chinese investment banks will establish the branches in AIFC, and it will give good results. And I would like to continue that within the frameworks of Financial Days Astana, our exchange. We have added new, according to Sharia, the Islam note can finance, and we have the application Tabus, and Chinese market is direct ATN, about 740 companies, and it will be an application Tabus. And for us it will be important event, Kazmunagas. They will take their shares to APU, and it was announced, and I think that for AIFC and for all Kazakhstani, it will be good news that we have this application type Tabus IPU, that according to our telephone will be able to participate at IPO, and further we'll be able to improve the application Tabus, and we can see here that there are such steps being made to improve the investment knowledge. And I would like to add also, we're talking about finances, and we have the Bureau of this Permanent Development, which develops the human capital, and during 3 days, foreign experts, we were developing the educational technologies, and ministry participated in that. And our main goal in the sphere of science and education, we need to attract the experts so they will generate their ideas, and ministry has this open policy, and this very platform regarding 7 directions, we were following this work, and we have such plans. One important moment, we have created a G Club. There were 6 companies and now 19 companies. And together with us companies, we were discussing a agenda. And in AIFC, regarding the development of the human capital, we have such a question, such an issue. In order not to have inequality in salaries between men and women, in the United States, because their State Department, they provided $30 billion, and the scholarship 100 entrepreneurs will be teaching in southern Kazakhstan. We have created an international program. We try to realize such measures. Microphone, please.
Здравствуйте.
Hello, dear participants of the conference. Thank you so much for this event. My name is Ivan Shapanov, Invest Future. My question is, let's say, about educational character, but I think it's very important, especially for our foreign audience. When we came to Astana, we understood that there are several regulators, there are several large structures that are responsible for regulation. So my question is about this regulatory function. First, we have the AFC, and we were invited as media partners. Second structure is a national bank, and the third structure is the Kazakhstani stock exchange. And we supposed that the issue of the distribution of the regulatory function is only a question for us. And we actually didn't understand the distribution of this power between these three structures. But as soon as we started negotiation and discussion, the other business people here, we understood that not all people understand this distribution. So I think it would be good if you explain to us, especially to foreign audience, if you tell us the difference between the powers and competencies of these three regulatory bodies. Thank you so much. I think Rinat Bekturov wanted to start to reply, but yes, I can say there are some specific maybe issues connected with regulatory issues. So based on your question, I think it needs lots of discussion, but the main thing is so that the company would understood it, but also it's important so that these regulatory bodies would agree in between each other who will be responsible for what. As AIFC is kind of innovation in the state management, of course, this mutual understanding is really important. So right now we have been functioning for many years, and now let me tell you how this regulatory body had this agreement. So for all people who are here, let me tell you, we are quite often confused. Before it was this confusion, KASE and the AFC. Right now you also said AIFC and then National Bank and then KASE. And now you put more, let's say, mix and uncertainty to this area. Let us start from the AIFC. The AIFC is a jurisdiction which includes different institutions. So jurisdiction is like the legislation of, there is a legislation of Kazakhstan and there is a, let's say, a little part of legislation in the AFC. That's why to compare the AFC with AIX, so with stock exchange, with National Bank, we shall not do it because these are all different institutes on their own, let's say, nature, function, and so on. In the main jurisdiction of Kazakhstan, as you know, there is a legislation of Kazakhstan, the law on national bank, the law on securities. The main regulator in Kazakhstan regarding KASE and regarding the AIX in the AFC, the regulator is the national bank. In any country, the central bank is the main bank. And this shall not be under question because the National Bank is the holder of all these reserves, because National Bank is issuing national currency, and there are different corresponding countries, corresponding relations of the country with other countries. But of course, National Bank is not only National Bank, there are also some other institutions. Besides, recently there was the other regulator that was separated from the National Bank. So we have National Bank, Mr. Pirmatov, and there is a regulator in the main jurisdiction of Kazakhstan is Madina Abulkasimova. These two people, or these two bodies, let's say, regulate the activity of financial institutions. So, for example, Madina will be responsible for bank supervision, for bank insurance, and speaking about KASE, National Bank is responsible for KASE because National Bank is supervising what is happening in this Kazakhstani stock exchange. So National Bank is interested in all these trading activities, the rules followed, and so on. So they work together. Sometimes in the history of Kazakhstan they could be merged, sometimes they are, let's say, separated again. They are like supervisors. But we also have in the system second-tier bank. We have the KASE, Kazakhstani Stock Exchange. KASE is also the regulator itself, the regulator of that market that they work in. This is one system, but there is also the Supreme Court and the judicial system. Then, speaking about innovations that happened, it was the same as it was in Abu Dhabi, Qatar. So it was made a decision that inside this system it would be a specific regulatory and legal enclave or like separate area. And we looked at those examples. For example, in Dubai, 20 years ago, the same happened in Dubai. Why Dubai is a good example and Abu Dhabi is a good example? Dubai, because it was established 20 years ago, Abu Dhabi 10 years ago. So we're not speaking about the countries where this procedure happened about 200 years ago. No, we have recent countries. These countries have different jurisdictions. They have this Sharia law, but now then they had this innovation of having the new area where the English law would be enforced. Then let's take Gangkong. Yes, we know that there is also the Chinese system and English law system. The same happens here in Kazakhstan. Our legislation is similar to Russian legislation, and the English law that is now enforced in the AFC, that this example we took from the Dubai, from the Abu Dhabi. And so inside our system there are also some other institutions that are different from each other in their tasks, and they are not dependent on each other. We have a separate court, our court, and our court is independent court. It's not in the system of Kazakhstani legislation, but we have a good cooperation with the Supreme Court. And sometimes, if there are some specific cases, the Supreme Court could give some cases to the AIFC. Speaking about the legal sovereignty, we do not break any legal sovereignty because we speak here only about investors, about their relations with each other and with state, and only within the contract and investment activity. So, for example, there is a contract which is an international document and something is violated in this contract, it shall be considered either in the arbitration center or in the court. In the AFC, we also have Astana Financial Service Authority. This is like the Committee on Regulation of Financial Market. This is in the AFC ecosystem. So only those companies that received the license from us, for example, China Construction Bank, only they will be regulated by our ecosystem. And then there is also the Astana International Exchange. So we have the court, the regulator, and we also have the exchange, Astana Exchange, which is also the regulator for the companies registered here. And you know, these regulators and the outside regulators, I mean for the general legislation of Kazakhstan, these are two systems, independent. But we live in one state, and there are some people who are responsible for the financial stability. You know, speaking about financial stability, we saw some, you know, violations. We saw the crises in 2008 and in some other years. And last year we have an agreement, and there is a specific act on the currency regulation in the AIFC. This is the AIFC document, but we have three signatures there. The signature of the chairman of National Bank, of Agency of Financial Regulation, where we have the list from for about 23 functions, for example, Islamic financing, capital market, investment bank. So in these areas, AIFC institutes could provide services not only to the participants of the AIFC, but to the other bodies in Kazakhstan. But we will exchange the information. We will think about it. We will speak about it, why this system works quite well. Because the English law is more, let's say, perceivable to innovations. So big technological companies are usually registered in Anglo-Saxon jurisdiction, or they go to NASDAQ, or they use this Anglo-Saxon law, because every time when there is an innovation, the legal system could be adapted to this system. The same is with our regulator. We have a specific regulatory sandbox where these young companies could come and could say, hey, I have created a new application, let us test it per 1,000 people, because if we test it for 19 million people of Kazakhstan, of course, there could be some problems raised. So we usually help such companies, but later they shall receive accreditation in the main authority. So this is the difference, if I managed to explain it to you. So dear friends, any other questions? Please. Good day. My name is Narek. My question is connected with the cryptocurrency. So my question is connected with the cryptocurrency. Thank you so much. The AFC, as you have said, our activity here is connected with cryptocurrency. So first, we want to start a pilot program with National Bank. Nowadays, we have this program, and it will start this year. The cryptocurrency stock exchange and local banks, they want to introduce a new specific activities. Before, these issues have not been covered in any other initiative, so this project will be the pilot one, and so as soon as we have a specific limits up to $1,000 in this area. We have 4 local banks and 4 local banks could implement such programs related with the cryptocurrency. So what will be the effect from this? We will look at the effect of this pilot program, and after that, the full cryptocurrency platform will appear in the AFC. Speaking about these 4 banks, let us first finish the work that we have started, and after that, we can speak in more details, but for the moment. So the question was, who is the regulator? And Mr. Kairat Kerembetov told that there is our regulator, there is Kazakhstani regulator, and there is a national bank, and the Ministry of Digital Development. So these 4 regulators are working on this cryptocurrency issue, but not all questions have been discussed in all details, so maybe a little bit later you will be informed on this. So if there are no questions, let me conclude. So Mr. Kairat Kerembetov, you was Vice Minister, you worked deeply with different contexts. Could you tell some words speaking about forecasting of the new activities? We see new Kazakhstan program declared by our president. What is the role of the AFC in this? Well, you all know that there is an agency on strategic planning and the government. Well, last year I worked in the agency and I work with the president's administration. Right now, all of our administration are working on the new strategy. For the first 6 months, we have seen serious constitutional political reforms. We had the referendum, and this is a part of New Kazakhstan. When we see the new game rules are formed, and we see there is a building of the inclusive model of economic growth. What it means, inclusive model? If we get back to our last model was speaking about achieving the high growth rate and the redistribution of the financial and natural wealth that country had through the taxes. We could see some issues there, and right now we know that we need to relaunch this economic growth initiative, and I think we will see the good results in autumn. Speaking about today's situation, I would say that despite the high turbulence in the global geopolitical sphere, despite the serious processes of high inflation rate, and I think despite all of these factors, Kazakhstani economic system showed its stability. The central bank has conducted a good work, and the Agency on Financial Regulation jointly with the government, they also did a lot, and they're continuing to limit the price, or to stop the growing of price for the products, to stabilize the course. And we speak about economic growth, and in short-term perspective, especially after COVID situation, when for 2 years we had experienced the shock in economics. I would say that we are still working well, and right now the head of our state is saying that we need to form the new strategies, we need to have new ideas, and I think that the AFC is playing the kind of think tank role, despite all of these, besides all of these institutions. We are also participating in these transformation processes, and I hope that we will make our contribution. And we are as a center of excellence, and lots of reforms and economical processes could be piloted here, could be developed here. And of course, we continue our main role to attract the foreign investments in Kazakhstan. So, Mr. Kairat Kembetov, thank you so much. I would like to thank all your team. Thank you for this press conference, and we wish you good work. So we see that right now the potential of the AFC is starting to open. Thank you so much.
We know it's going to take many forms of energy to meet the world's needs while creating a cleaner future for all. At Chevron, we're lowering the carbon emissions intensity of our operations, investing in lower carbon technologies, and exploring renewable fuels of the future. We work hard to care for the homes we love, but it's only human to protect the one we share.
самом сердце столицы Казахстана компания «Алдар» создала современный многофункциональный комплекс, крупнейший в стране. Абу-Даби Плаза – место притяжения людей и бизнеса, эпицентр столицы и украшение панорамы города. Абу-Даби Плаза стал ярким продолжением серии успешных проектов компании «Алдар». Абу-Даби Плаза – это многофункциональный комплекс с единой инфраструктурой для работы, отдыха и комфортной жизни. Торговый центр связывает воедино все здания комплекса. Живая атмосфера, центральное расположение, уникальные дизайнерские решения, форматы и всемирно известные бренды делают его привлекательным как для шопинга, так и для бизнеса. Жилой комплекс дарит возможность насладиться жизнью в столице, живя и работая с комфортом в самом сердце Нур-Султана. Отель «Шаратон» предоставляет жителям и гостям столицы первоклассное обслуживание, а также все необходимое для проведения деловых встреч и мероприятий на самом высоком уровне. Знаковая локация офисных площадей Абу-Даби Плаза, престиж и масштабность проекта делают комплекс идеальным местом для открытия представительства международных корпораций и активно развивающегося казахстанского бизнеса. Свободная планировка офисных пространств, подземный паркинг на 4000 автомобилей и продуманная инфраструктура. Здесь все предусмотрено для успеха вашего бизнеса. Почувствуйте пульс и ритм города вместе с Абу-Даби Плаза.
Мир стремительно развивается. Ежедневно растет потребность человечества в ресурсах. Для технологического прогресса особенно нужны металлы и различные источники электроэнергии. ENG обеспечивает мир такими ресурсами. Наша группа – лидер по производству высокоуглеродистого феррохрома, ведущий производитель меди и кобальта, один из крупнейших поставщиков железной руды, глинозема и алюминия в странах СНГ. Группа поддерживает глобальные инициативы по продвижению зеленой экономики и развитию альтернативных источников электроэнергии. ENG работает в 15 странах мира. Особенно мощно группа представлена в Казахстане. Сегодня ENG в Казахстане – это треть горно-металлургического комплекса страны. За последние 5 лет вклад компании в ВВП страны составил 5 триллионов тенге. Благодаря деятельности группы более 150 тысяч казахстанцев обеспечены работой. ENG – первый и крупнейший производитель глинозема и первичного алюминия высокой марки в Казахстане. Электроэнергетические активы ENG обеспечивают 17% всей вырабатываемой электрической энергии в стране. Будучи флагманом горно-металлургической промышленности государства, ENG также играет важную роль в повышении экспортного потенциала Казахстана. Ключевые рынки сбыта продукции за рубежом – страны Европы, Китай, Россия, Япония. Все эти достижения стали возможны только благодаря нашим сотрудникам. Люди – главная ценность компании. ENG – это прежде всего одна большая команда. Дружная, сплоченная и профессиональная. Единство наших сотрудников, их ответственность перед компанией и местными сообществами, а также инновационный потенциал обеспечивают безопасность производства, эффективность инвестиций и долгосрочное развитие ENG как лидера горно-металлургической отрасли в Казахстане и мире. Так, ENG на деле воплощает свою миссию, бережно раскрывая потенциал Земли, обеспечивать процветание тех, кто на нас полагается.
Hello, I'm Andrew Campbell. I'm the chairman of the global board of Grata International, which is the Swiss verein which exercises overall control and direction for the Grata International network. There are a number of aspects of the work that I do for Grata. One is I speak to international law firms who are significant clients of the firm. I certainly enjoy doing that and explaining to them about the value of Grata. I discuss the strategic direction of the firm with the senior partners, and I also work proactively with the Integration Center and the International Cooperation Department, who are performing an excellent function on behalf of the firm. And last but not least, I speak to potential new firms. That's a very interesting question. I think it's really to do with our focus. We're very much focused on a particular regional area. And international law firms have retreated from that space, whereas we are within this very large geographical area extending from Eastern Europe through to China. And we provide, as a result, very significant services in those markets. Well, we've clearly been through some very difficult times since Grata was set up nearly 30 years ago. Most recently, of course, we've had the pandemic and there are other difficulties in the region. I think that the success, or the indication of the success of Grata, is that not only are we surviving in this market, but we're getting stronger and expanding. The Verein structure, which is a particular legal construct established under Swiss law, enables us to provide international coordination and direction, but at the same time it leaves all the local officers to pursue their own business activities in a manner which is most amenable to success within each of their own local markets.
Это что такое? Да не игра. Вот это. Возможно, вы думаете, что виза — это просто банковские карты. А что, если я скажу, что название, которое вы видите повсюду, это больше, чем просто надпись? Виза — это сеть. Она помогает людям переводить деньги отсюда вот сюда. И помогает этому парню работать онлайн, чтобы он мог продать джинсы, находясь да хоть бы на этой горе. Это волшебство, которое остается за кадром, но может объединить всех со всеми. Эта сеть позволяет взглянуть на мир свежим взглядом за утренней чашкой кофе и меняет точку зрения на то, что делает бизнес бизнесом. Виза — это сеть, которая может объединить всех. Там, где вам нужно быть. Там, куда вы мечтаете попасть. Там, где вы заслуживаете быть. Эта сеть — ключ к исполнению мечты. Ведь Виза каждый день открывает двери по всему миру, чтобы коммерция объединяла нас всех. Виза — сеть, которая работает для каждого.
An excellence pursuer, a partner forever. China Construction Bank, CCB, was established in 1954, evolving from a policy bank, a specialized bank, a state-owned commercial bank, to a large-scale state-owned joint stock commercial bank. CCB has been continuously expanding its business scope and exploring new financial service offerings. With 65 years development, CCB has consistently been ranked among the world's top banks with its sound operating indicators. And its total assets have remained the second on a global scale for many consecutive years. In the year of 2014, when CCB celebrated its 60th anniversary, President Xi Jinping instructed the bank to improve the capabilities to serve national development, mitigate financial risks, and improve competitiveness in the international arena. CCB